Welcome back, everyone. Professor Thomas here again. We're continuing on with Genius Mapping homework assignment number 3, week 3, practice problems 36 through 40. Let's jump on in and get our feet wet with some answers here. Starting with 36, when the author says nature can't be compartmentalized in line 90, he's most likely making the argument. That kind of reminds me of the central theme. Let's go back, take a look at what we genius mapped out here. Paragraph 1, we talk about island creatures potentially going extinct. Island creatures that live on an island, live in a small population, and small populations tend to be more vulnerable. When we go over here, now we see Yellowstone as being a isolated area. We're talking about these creatures being grizzly bears, and the creatures, grizzly bears, being isolated away from other populations. We come over here, we see island syndrome again. Small islands support fewer species. You can see the author has a negative attitude towards the whole thing here. Basically, what's happening is this. The author doesn't believe that you should make wilderness refuges for particular animals because it's not going to do anything. They're still going to go extinct. Come on over here. Let's take a look at the answers. First of all, let's go ahead and do a quick review of line 90. It says, nature can't be compartmentalized. Nature isn't convenient. Nature is inherently big. Come over here, look for an answer choice that says something about that. Come over here. Answer choice G says the author's argument is against creating small reserves for portions of diverse natural landscape. That is the correct answer. And if you notice, this answer is basically based off the central theme once we genius map this out. For me, this was extremely easy. After I genius mapped this out, I said, oh, all the questions in this passage have a tendency to fall around and revolve around the central theme. And G just basically fell in my lap. I looked at H and I thought H was a dumb answer. No. Separation from humans and other animals is blah, 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 blah. That's totally off the topic. Another way to look at 36 is this. You're basically going to be asked to Scooby-Doo compartmentalization. The way you can do that is you can say, oh, in my parents' car, there's the glove box, and that is the glove compartment. It's a smaller unit within the interior of my parents' car. Scooby-Doo for compartmentalization means smaller units, and in this case, a smaller unit would be a smaller reserve, small reserves. 36, therefore, will be G. Let's jump on in and take a look at 37. 37 reads, when the author uses the phrase natural catastrophe that can deliver a coup de grace, lines 12 through 13, he is referring to. Your job in this question is to Scooby-Doo or reword natural catastrophe. A natural catastrophe might be something like a huge windstorm. It might be a hurricane like Katrina. It might be a lightning strike. It might be something like that. Look at your answer choices, and that will lead you to answer choice D. D talks about extreme weather. Extreme weather is a natural catastrophe. All the others are incorrect because they're off of the central theme of what we talked about earlier. Let's take a look at practice problem 38. 38. It can most reasonably be inferred from the passage that the representatives in Congress who voted to establish the original national park system believed that. Well, let's come back here and take a look at our genius map. Our genius map, you can see from all these negative symbols that you think the author's tone is negative. The author doesn't believe that small populations can be supported and isolating them is going to actually help them from being extinct. So, what is the opposite of that? The opposite of that would be a Congress representative thinking, hey, if we make a small park reserve, we can save these animals. That will lead you to answer choice F. People in Congress believe they would protect forever the plants and animals and species in those parks. That is what Congress believed. Remember, the author disagrees with that. If you come over here and take a look at G, H, and J, they're not related to the central theme here. If you look over here, G talks about smaller animals. They're saving smaller animals. That doesn't say anything in the passage about that. Rather than losing all of them, it would be better to save a few. No, that's off the central theme as well. And the system is a temporary measure. Well, if it was a temporary measure, why would Congress enact a law? That's just basic kid logic. 38, therefore, will be F. Moving on to 39. 39 reads, according to the passage, after conducting his research on the 29 mammal population that have disappeared from national parks, William Newmark discovered that. First things first, it's a mystery question. Mystery questions, what you do is you pick a keyword. In this case, we're going to pick William Newmark. That's kind of a long word, so let's just pick one word, Newmark. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to come over here, go back to the top of the passage, and we're going to start at the top left, and we're going to say Newmark, go all the way to the right, Newmark, 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 Newmark. Left to right, right to left, top to bottom until we find Newmark. When we do that, Newmark, 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 finger scanning is what we call that. We notice that we find that word, Newmark, on line 58. A couple things to note about mystery questions. It's hard to find. It's easy to reword once you find the right area. Hard places for us to see because of what's called eye tracking are gutters and alleys. Remember, gutters are on the sides of the paragraphs, and the first sentence of a paragraph and the last sentence of a paragraph. Our eyes, for some reason, just don't like those areas. Here we see it's a classic example of hiding the word Newmark at the top of a paragraph on the far left. It is in a gutter and it's in an alley. Make sure that if you have trouble finding the particular word, you can go ahead and scan your finger down each top of the column, left to right, and then left to right and right to left for the top sentence and the bottom sentence as well. Once we found the correct area, technically it should fall in our lap once we read it. Here's what it says. Newmark listed 29 cases with documentation and noted a telling pattern. The smaller the park, the more mammals species were lost. So there's a correlation between the size and number of animals being lost. If you come over here, the only answer that's going to say anything even close to that is C. The relationship, there's a direct relationship between the size of the park and the number of mammals. It's an easy Scooby-Doo, an easy rewording from line 58. Therefore, practice problem number 39, C is the answer. Going on to 40. 40 reads, the author suggests that to solve the problem of island syndrome, national parks in western North America would need to. Well, first thing we're going to need to do here is we're going to need to solve the problem. So when you come back up here to look at your Genius map, we notice that in paragraph number 1 it says, why do island creatures go extinct? You know that the whole rest of this passage is going to have to explain why island creatures go extinct. And in this question, they're asking you for the answer. Now, this is the introductory paragraph. The rest of the passage is going to have to go about and answer that question. When you look at the last paragraph here, this is the conclusory paragraph here. It says, the message, blah, 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 blah. Nature isn't convenient. Nature is inherently big. It's the conclusion for the whole passage. And if you look over here, how do you solve the problem? The best way to solve this problem is this. You would need natural parks to be larger. So how to do that? The opposite of an island is a huge monster landmass like Africa. So, we've got dodo birds on this small island. What do? We give the dodo birds more room. H is the correct answer. Cover a large land area. All you really need to do here is just see line 91. Nature is big, and that will tell you answer choice. H is the correct answer. Let's go ahead and do one last thing as we kind of move on down here. We mentioned this earlier, but let's go into it a teeny bit more here. The form of this essay is this. The passage asks you a question and then answers the passage throughout each paragraph. And then at the very end, there's going to be a conclusion here, which we saw about nature being big. There you have it. It's questions 36 through 40 for this particular mini quiz. It's Genius Mapping, homework assignment, week number 3. It's Professor Thomas checking out. We'll see you in the next video, kids. Bye for now.